welcome to Negro Please. I'm Dallas Scott, Hollywood Huff over there, Quan the producer. I don't even know where to start this week. Like I'm flipping back and forth between these stories. I am glad though that sports is coming back. At least I have something to zone out on and watch on TV. I have like binge watched so much Netflix and Amazon. Like I'm watching 2 seasons in a day, like 20 episodes. I'm just like sitting on the couch with some edibles and just like woo off and like let's start with your boy. I don't want to give him too much space, but we have to talk about him. Kanye West.
Good Lord.
Real quick, Quan, do you think he has mental health issues? Okay. I was just curious because you made a post earlier about all the. I was just curious what your thought was. All right, so Quan does think he has. Do you think he has mental health issues?
I guarantee it 100%. It's not even. Yeah, it's not even a question about it. There is something off, and it's to the point that I can listen to him talk, and you can almost tell like, okay, he's on his meds and just being narcissistic, and then he's off his meds and he's just free flowing. Whatever comes to his mouth, it's coming out. Like, you know what I mean?
He's admitted to being diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Yeah. So,
but you still got to take the meds.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things where I feel like at one point I thought it was just an act, and now I don't think it's an act.
After his comments last night about the whole Harriet Tubman thing, and which was just beyond stupid, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, when is Kim going to be like, enough is enough? Well, apparently Kim had enough yesterday because, and I didn't see this part in the video, but I'm going by the news story. Kanye mentioned that they thought about having an abortion on their first child. And she's livid that he talked about that in public.
Yeah.
And she has a right to be. Like, Kim has a very big brand, a much bigger brand than Kanye has.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at some point, she has to start protecting her children and her part of her brand, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people thought that this would be an issue when they first were publicly serious.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember there was a couple headlines about the mom saying something about not wanting Kanye to come into the picture because it could potentially cause troubles to the Kardashian brand, right? And everybody was like, oh, who are they? Whatever. We love Kanye. Yeah. And, well, here we are.
He's just like... So, remember he was going to run for president. Then he decided he wasn't running for president. Then 2 days ago, he filed paperwork to run for president. And then he held his news conference, which is a whole bunch of bipolar stuff. Yes, no, yes, maybe, yes.
Yeah.
There was a poll that came out before he said he wasn't going to run. It was on TMZ was talking about it. And it was interesting. He actually got like 2% of the vote.
Yeah.
Like 2% of the people that were polled.
Yeah.
And we don't know who they polled, right?
Right,
Like,
of course.
we don't, because it's polls.
Right.
But 2% of the people said that they would actually vote for Kanye, which doesn't surprise me in America anymore.
Yeah.
But what shocked them was that they thought Kanye running would take points away from Biden, when in reality it took points away from Trump, which just makes me believe that the 2% of people who agreed to vote for him, they just want a circus.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Like,
you know,
like they just want they don't want boring. Like you made a comment earlier about Joe Biden. If he gets elected, it's going to be the most boring 4 years ever.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, especially after what we've just gone through. But yeah, like people just want a circus. They don't want people actually doing the job. They just want somebody to be out there like rah on them.
Yeah, and it's silly. I never took him serious because when he first said it, my first thought was it's too late for him to run for president. But whatever, he could. I guess he still has time to file in certain places or whatever. But the more he just kept talking, but he never actually filed. And then a few days ago, I guess he filed, right? So. Maybe this is more serious, but I'm not even really paying attention to what he's saying because for what? Okay, here's the thing. This is something that bothers me, right? We got 2 people Biden and Trump, these guys are so old and so messed up and so just demented in their brains that they're literally arguing right now over who has the best cognitive skills. who has the least amount of dementia, right? That's what these two are arguing about, okay? That's the debate that's happening between the next two presidential candidates, whose brain is actually still functioning properly, okay? Not even at like a superior level, just basic 5th grade. Can you count to 20? Can you count backwards from 100? Like, that's what they're arguing about. And then you throw in a person who has diagnosed, admitted himself, a mental disorder, bipolar. Now, I have nothing against anyone who has any sort of mental health issue.
And there are people who have bipolar that live great lives. They take their medications. They do great.
Exactly.
The former governor of Minnesota, Mark Dayton, had bipolar and did a lot of great things for that state.
And I'm not saying a person who is bipolar cannot be president. However, this particular person who has known to let his bipolar issues take the forefront and say some of the most ridiculous things when he gets in front of a microphone, I'm not looking for Trump multiplied by 5,000 to be the next president. So even if he runs, trust me, like, I hate talking politics. I hate telling people who I will and won't vote for, but it ain't going to be Ye. God bless him. If he comes out with another album, I will listen to it.
Let me ask you a question. Though. If he takes the cognitive skills test and he's got better cognitive skills test than Trump and Biden, would you go? Clearly,
he can't, because Trump scored the highest you could possibly ever score on a cognitive skills test, which, my goodness. But that's the thing. Like, that's what's so messed up about it. Let's just say they put all their scores out, right? And like Trump scored like a 92 and Biden scored a 92 and Kanye had a 96. I still don't think that's even like better. Like, you have 3 grown men here and we're basically saying like they may be smarter than a 5th grader, possibly. Like
they need to be on a show with Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah, for real. Like, what? Dude, we talking about leading, as an American, the greatest country in the world, right? Leader of the free world. That's the job we fighting for, right? 300 million people here. And we down to 3 people who are like, yeah, I'm smarter than you. No, I'm smarter than you. No, I'm smarter than you. No, I got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old at home. Like, if I want to hear that, I'll just sit there and look at them for a while. That conversation is going to happen. And I'm expecting it because they're elementary.
But the ironic thing of all this is like the guys who are smart, like Fosse, like they're ignoring and saying they don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, gosh. How do you have a guy, like, I don't care where you stand in politics, how do you have a guy who specializes in infectious diseases and how diseases spread and all this stuff, and the dude this is his specialty. He's the best. I don't know if best in the world, but probably the best in the country at it.
That's what they say. And like, even other doctors who do this say that Fosse is the best, right? Yeah, like, he's done the most research. He's done like, and he's been doing this for 35, 40. Like, it's not like he just graduated.
Right. He's been doing this forever, right? And then he shows up and they're like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Nah, no, fake news.
It's fake news.
How? How do you tell the CDC basically like, no, we're not listening to y'all anymore?
That's like people who say, well, you're violating my constitutional rights. I always ask them this, what right in the Constitution are you being violated?
Yeah.
What right in the Constitution does that right have? Like, our governor here in Nevada yesterday, he got some people threatened to sue him. So you can't, I don't know if people know this, you can't sue the government without the government's permission. That's federal and state. You cannot sue the government without permission from the government. So, but you can sue a state employee for violating your constitutional rights.
Right.
So now there's the, excuse me, there's the, we don't want to wear mask group, don't shut us down, pandemic isn't real group trying to sue the governor for violating the constitutional rights, when the Supreme Court has already set precedents that says that this is not a violation of your constitutional right. And state governments have a right to do these type of things when it comes to public health and safety.
Right.
So it's going to be a lot of waste of money and it's going to go back and forth in court, but it's very rare that Supreme Courts reverse precedent.
And here's the thing for the people who still don't get it. And I know there's 7,000 conspiracies and I won't get into I know we don't like it. I don't like it. There's a lot of uncertainty. It sucks. This whole situation is not cool. But here's the same. I said the same thing right before the shutdown, when the shutdown first happened, and I'm saying it now. This whole thing is not just about whether the coronavirus is going to kill all these people, right? So people keep comparing it to like, oh, more people die from this or more people die from that. That's not what it's about. What it comes down to is, can the hospitals handle the amount of people who are sick going into their facility? So if the hospital has 50 beds that have respirators and they only have 30 patients who come in and need a respirator, the world is fine. Everything is great. We don't have to shut anything down. We're totally fine.
When patient 51 comes in.
Exactly. So when patient 51 comes in, whether he's got coronavirus or the flu or pneumonia or he just can't breathe, right, anything, now that patient cannot be helped. He cannot be fixed, right? So it's something that in the hospital with treatment, he'll probably, live and survive and be sent home, right? But if there's no respirator or no room for him to go be treated, now we have a problem. So when the coronavirus numbers spike, you have to think about, well, also there are people with just non-coronavirus related health issues who are still going to the hospital. So that's why we have to shut down when the hospitals get overcrowded. So if the hospital has 50 beds, 100 beds, and patient number 55 or patient number 105 comes in, now we have a problem. So it's not just about corona. And it doesn't matter if you're going to live or die. If you're at home and all of a sudden you're having trouble breathing, you can sit at home and live through that. But I promise you, if it's that bad, you're going to go to the hospital just in case.
And that's the thing, though, right? Not everybody, like, I have a friend who has it, and his only issue is that he gets these coughing fits, but when he starts coughing, he can't breathe. Like, he feels like his lungs lock up on him.
Right. And
he has to go get an inhaler that the doctor gave him when he was diagnosed. He says when he uses the inhaler, it feels like his throat is on fire, like when that medication hits.
Yeah.
And then it takes a few minutes, or a few seconds, and it opens up his lungs, and all of a sudden he's like,
right.
Like I can breathe.
Yeah,
he can breathe there for a second. So it's not, and he's not like in bed dying, you know what I mean? He's still up walking around, but it's still very uncomfortable and very painful at times.
And if that happens to you and you're at home, trust me, you're going to the hospital.
Right.
You're not going to just say, oh, it's just corona, it'll pass. Like, you're going to the hospital. So we don't like it. Nobody likes it. Just put your freaking mask on. Don't go as many places.
Oh, we got a phone call.
Yeah.
Oh, who's calling in?
Oh, this is OMF from San Francisco, California, calling in supporting your show. What's
Thank
going
you.
on?
What can we do for you today?
I'm just calling to support your show and just let you all know about I have a show that comes on every Wednesday on Blackout Radio at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Blackout Radio.
All right, cool. We appreciate you checking in with us, man. All right.
Yeah, thanks for the call, bro.
Thank you. So back to Kanye and Kim. Kim's apparently furious, and their relationship is not going well in general lately because of all the stuff he's done. Let's talk about, since we're on relationships, let's go Tory Lanez and Meg the Stallion.
Oh.
Or Meg the Stallion. We don't know why yet, but we know what happened. We know they were at, again, the Kardashians. How are they in this? They were at, they were at one of the younger Kardashian girls' house. I don't remember which one it is because I get them all confused. They're having a good time. They're partying, whatever. They leave. Something happens between Tory and Meg. She tries to get out of the car. He starts shooting. He actually hits her. She's actually naked when she gets out of the car, which is like some other like freaky stuff going on here. But that's all right. I mean, you can be freaky. You're grown adults.
Yeah.
What you want to do
adults.
It's a shooting thing now. Like, first of all, if you're Tory Lanez, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this some mental illness too? Because how the hell do you think that you're going to shoot somebody who's probably more high profile than you are on the streets in LA, and you're just going to get away with this?
So I read one story that said, now I don't know exactly how all this pans out and makes sense. I almost feel like even though he shot her in the foot or whatever, they're still trying to like protect each other or something, right?
Right.
But so the thing is so apparently they were in the SUV doing whatever. They got into an argument, and she pulled out a knife, and then his response.
I didn't see that start. He pulled.
Okay, they said that she pulled out a knife. I'm gonna try to find that one.
Okay.
She pulled out a knife, and then his response was pulling out the gun, and something happened in between these two. One with a knife, one with a gun. Her trying to get out the vehicle, and he shot her in the foot. So, and then the wild part is when the police first came, she said she stepped on glass or something.
Right.
So she didn't. She didn't say right away that she got shot.
Right. Not till they went to surgery and took the bullet out. Right.
So that's the part that I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute. What?
Her official statement on Twitter was, the narrative that is being reported about Sunday morning's events are inaccurate, and I'd like to set the record straight. On Sunday morning, I suffered a gunshot wound as a result of a crime that was committed against me and done with intention to physically harm me. I was never arrested. The police drove me to the hospital where I underwent surgery to remove the bullet. I am incredibly grateful to be alive and that I'm expected to make a full recovery. But it was important for me to clarify the details about this traumatic night. I'm currently focused on my recovery so I can return back to life and back to making music as soon as possible.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's too much. See, this is the problem. And this is the whole like not snitching culture.
Right.
Because at this point, is she just not snitching? Or are they so heavily romantically involved and she knows that she started something? You know what I mean?
That, like she was like, she's saying this was a crime against her though in her statement. Like she's not. Yeah.
But that wasn't her. But here, this is when you lose credibility, right?
Right. Because your initial.
Where was your story at first?
Right.
Where was this at first? At first, you said you stepped on glass.
Right.
Really?
Right. You
see what I'm saying?
You're naked outside a car or an SUV. You stepped on glass and cut your foot, so the police had to be called. There's so much like. What do you say? What do you say to somebody during being? And I'm assuming they're being freaky, right? Because she's naked in the back of the vehicle, like, or did she just take her clothes off when she was being shot at and ran out? Like, what do you say at some point in that time for somebody to get mad at you? All of a sudden, they want to shoot you, and you got to pull a knife on somebody.
I have no idea.
Did somebody call out somebody else's name? Did somebody call her Cardi B? Did she tell him that his junk was as tall as like his 5'3" height matched the stuff of his junk? Like I don't know here. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's so much speculation. And then she had another statement that she made on like Twitter or something,
where black women are so unprotected and we hold so many things and to protect the feelings of others without considering our own. It might be funny to y'all on the internet and just another messy topic for you to talk about. But this is my real life, and I'm real life hurted and traumatized. And I guess we are guilty of being those people who are on the internet.
You know what? You know what though? Like here's why this is funny, because you put yourself in this situation.
You do.
You know what I mean? And this is what bothers me about rappers who they want to live this life, right? They want to glorify this life, but they don't want the fruits of it. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Like wasn't it Jim Jones that said that growing up in the ghetto is more dangerous than being a member of the military?
Yeah, something like that, right? Yeah,
I think it was Jim Jones.
Yeah, he was like being a hip hop artist or a rapper or something is more dangerous than being in the military.
It's more dangerous because you made it more dangerous than be. But it's right.
You see what I'm saying?
To even make that correlation is stupid. Like, because people in the military go to war. What they didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to the military to go to war." Like, and they. A lot of these young kids are trying to get out of a situation that they're in, maybe a situation like Jim Jones is talking about, right? And they're trying to better their lives, and the military helps them do that. And they get sent off to war, not because they necessarily want to go, but because that's the job that they signed up for.
Right.
When you want to be a hip-hop artist and be gangster in the hood and sell drugs, that's your choice. You made that choice to do that, so you can't compare that to guys going to war to fight for your country.
I remember when E40 first came out, because I'm that old. And on his first album, he basically said, "Hey, y'all, I'm a studio gangster. Right. The stuff I'm talking about, I'm not really into that." Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically like the intro of his first album says something like that, right? So, and in all these years that E40 has been around, he has never, like, not been given respect. Like, I've never heard people be like, "Man, E40 soft. Like, he fake, he this or that." Right. I've never heard that. And yet I've never seen E40 in the news. I've never heard of E40, you know, caught selling dope or whatever, right? So you look at these artists and they act like a lot of these guys ain't even street people. They not like, it's not like they're street people who became rappers and they just can't get away from the street. A lot of them are suburban people, non-street people, the farthest thing from street people, become rappers, get money, and now they're trying to live that image, right? So let's cut the crap and not act like, oh, well, we got to protect black women. No, you black woman need to not be in the car with dudes who thugging it up. You understand? Like it'd be different if Tory Lanez just showed up to your house one day, tried to come in and shot you in the foot. Okay, we'll protect you there. But you know what this dude about? This wasn't their first date.
You remember the Boss, the female rapper, the Boss?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, like she came out with her album. What's it? I'm looking at the album right now. What was it called though? Oh, Born Gangster. Went to number 3 on the hip hop charts, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody found out that she wasn't really born gangster.
Of course.
Right? Like she was Catholic school raised. She tap dances, plays jazz piano. She went to college. Like,
right.
So the hip hop world like turned their back on her because she wasn't gangster enough.
She wasn't real enough.
Right. But just because she didn't, like, you can know about a situation.
Yeah.
Just because and not live that situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can have friends that live that situation.
Right.
And you can tell their story.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
She just because she wasn't specifically there, and she grew up in Los Angeles, so it wasn't like, you know, she grew up someplace and she grew up in Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s when it was incredibly bad, lots of gang violence. So you have friends, and if I tell you a story about something that happened to me traumatically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have secondhand reference of what happened to me, right?
Right.
So now you can take my story as a writer, an author, a poet,
as an artist,
rapper, an artist,
right?
And you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Interpret that story in your own way, right? That doesn't make the story wrong,
right?
That doesn't make the fact that you know about my experience doesn't make you wrong.
Art can imitate life,
right?
You know,
there
it's
are
allowed.
So many movies and books. James Patterson does it. I think it's Robert Flynn. I can't think of the guy. He writes all the spy books. Like all of his stories are written because he knows people in the CIA and the military and government.
Always asks.
And he gets these stories from them. And it might be a combination of your story and my story.
Yeah.
But the story is based around reality.
Tom Clancy has written 1,000,001 SEAL team movies and games and books and whatever, right? And I ain't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure he was not a member of like the Navy SEALs. But he writes about it all the time, right? So many video games and movies and things based off his writings. And
I'm looking him up now, and I don't see anything that says that he was ever
right. So as an artist, you're allowed to imitate life. And even in hip hop, like I try to explain this to people a lot. You have like certain MCs, right? Like I take Redman for example. Redman never really talks about doing some real gangster stuff, but as an MC, he says it. But you know, because like he's an MC, he's talking about how he's gonna break you verbally or XYZ, right? Eminem kind of borderline because there was a point where Eminem was getting locked up for pistol whipping people, right? So he did a little bit of living it, but a lot of like on the MC level, right?
Right.
Then you have Tupac, who was in death row, which was run by a gangster. And you have these guys doing gangster stuff. There's video footage of them beating people down at the MGM. Like, you know what I'm saying? And why are we, like, there's still people who are like, oh, Tupac's not dead. Like, the dude's been shot like 30-something times, in a 3-year period or something. He rapped about it. He talked about it. There's video footage. How did we expect his story to end?
Oh, you didn't, you
understand? You know what I'm saying?
He survived the shooting. Like, you can only survive so many shootings, right?
Right. Like, the thing is, he survived so many. When he actually died, we're all like, no, it's not possible.
He's
like,
Superman.
Bullets can't kill him.
That's Jesus.
You see,
That's
right?
Jesus,
You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing. He got shot, and he probably should have died that night. And the fact that he lived a week or 5 days or whatever it was, when he actually died, everybody was in shock because he had been through this so many times. But what did he talk about? What did he rap about? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, what do we have real video, not hearsay, real video footage of him doing? Now, granted, he did some great things in life. He could have been a fantastic actor. I feel like he was a great actor.
He was a good actor.
You know what I mean? Like,
I watched Juice over like 4th of July weekend.
yeah.
It's still a good movie.
It's still a good movie,
It's
right?
still-
and he's
and
a
he was
great
really
villain.
good.
He's really good in that movie, right?
He's really good in that movie.
Poetic Justice, another one. He's really good in that movie, right? We'll talk about it later, but it's a story about like he was supposed to be in Minister Society,
Right.
and they basically he kind of got booted off before the filming because he refused to play the role that they wanted him to play the way they wanted him to play it.
right.
Yeah, so it was a whole story. But anyway, like we look at that and we act like we're so surprised when these gangsters who are rapping about gangster life and living real gangster life, and then they get the real gangster fate, which is death, right? Why are we so surprised by that? Like,
So Vince Flynn is the author that I was talking about. That wrote all the he wrote this series of books about a fictional assassin named Mitch Rapp. I didn't realize he passed away a few years ago. But he was also consulting for the 5th season of 24. But I heard an interview with him years ago, and he talked about the fact that after he wrote his first book, CIA guys would be like, "Hey, you're Vince Flynn, right? Let me tell you a story." Navy SEAL guys, he would meet and be like, "Man, let me tell you a story," right? And that's how the books would eventually develop, is because somebody would tell him a story and he would take an idea from that story. So the stories aren't true, but they're based on events that other people had.
Right.
So you can live a life and write about stuff and interpret it in your form of art. Doesn't mean it's false.
Yeah.
God
bless him, though.
Yeah.
I hope she recovers.
Yeah. I hope she doesn't have to limp. I don't like. She's gonna be dancing on stage and like hit that soft spot in her foot.
As a person who's had foot surgery, she ain't gonna be dancing for a while. She ain't gonna be twerking none of that.
I don't even know like what to say about Terry Crews anymore. Other than I'm starting to think that maybe he might have some mental illness. First of all, I have to qualify this by saying that I am not talking about sex trafficking. I am not talking about children being abused when I say this. If people want to watch porn or pay people for sex, it's none of our damn business. Like, as long as it's consenting adults, it's not my business. I shouldn't care what you do. I shouldn't care about Quan and all of his stripper girlfriends and all that stuff. Like, that's not my business.
I have no stripper girlfriends, by the way.
Do you know any strippers? You don't know any prostitutes? I mean, it's Vegas. Like, I know a lot. Like, if I said I didn't know any,
Yeah, they call me when they need a ride, and they pay me better than Lyft does.
right. I have a friend that owns an escort service here. Like, it's Vegas. And maybe I'm jaded because I live in Vegas, and I just understand. Terry Crews wants to defund PornHub. I don't know who funds PornHub to begin with.
I would imagine the people who watch it.
Right. Like, how do you defund porn? First of all, and again, there should be no porn with children, and probably not bestiality in my opinion. But hey, whatever you want to do in your own freaky time. Because he had an addiction to porn, and it almost ruined his marriage. He wants everybody else to not have porn. Somebody on Twitter responded, "Dude, no. Masturbation is healthy. Self-love is healthy. Pornhub gives safe platforms to sex workers to say nothing of the artists who got kicked off Tumblr and generates revenue for them. Are there issues with the industry? Absolutely. Is it going after Pornhub the answer? No."
I feel like, so all the stuff that's been going on with Terry Crews lately, I feel like he has some issues. So you're allowed to feel however you want to feel. You can have an opinion about anything. I'll never stop anybody from having an opinion. I'm not one of those people who hates people because they love Donald Trump, as long as the racist views that I believe he may share. As long as you don't share them, we're cool, right? So I don't mind being a fan of someone who I have a difference of opinion in. However, there comes a point where our opinions continuously start to vary so much that I'm starting to feel like, bro, are you attacking my lifestyle? Like, are you? We're too far apart. Like we now have more cons than pros that we share, right? So before the porn thing, I felt like Terry Crews was getting there, right? I actually feel like he got there because I unfollowed him on one platform because I felt like I'm just tired of seeing this. You know what I mean? I'm tired of hearing about him and hearing what he has to say because I disagree too strongly with it, right? So then I start to see the headlines, and then you sent me the link about, he wants to defund PornHub. My first thought was users use PornHub. Like, that's not I don't think the government's keeping PornHub. Is this going to be on the ballot?
It could be some Jeffrey Epstein people who own the site. Might be throwing some money in there. I'm just saying, and we don't know that, but I mean, maybe Epstein killed himself. I don't know.
Who knows? Right. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. I heard the statement, and I think about it like this, and my first thought was, whenever somebody becomes like new with something or like free of something, they kind of just go nuts and tell everybody. They almost like overdo it, right?
Like people who stop smoking. I've been smoking for 40 years and I stopped for 14 days.
Right. And in that time, it's just like, woo, they so happy that they quit. You know what I mean? Or like when people when they first go to church, they first get saved, right? They want to tell everybody about Jesus to the point that they become annoying about Jesus. You know what I mean? And instead of like, you know what I mean, learning. And then it takes a while for them to kind of settle in. And then they learn how to like witness to people and tell them about our Lord Jesus, right?
Right.
And I feel like that's where Terry Crews is at. Like something has happened in this man's life and he is just boom. Like he has to like blast off about it. And it's kind of like, bro, I don't think this is the way to do it.
So I watched an interview with him a few weeks ago where he's talking. He doesn't name the person, but apparently him and Adam Sandler are really good friends. And Adam Sandler and him were doing a movie together. I think it was The Longest Yard.
Okay.
And they were at some type of party or meeting for that. And some movie executive came up and groped Terry Crews. A male movie executive.
I remember that.
And it freaked him out, which it should. Like, it would freak me out. And apparently, like, other people at the party saw this. And he doesn't mention who the executive is, which bothers me in itself, right? I'm so you have to if that person needs to be held accountable, right? If this person actually did that, then that person should be held accountable, just like Harvey Weinstein is, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly,
right?
Just because you're a man and it was another man, if you can tell the story, you can tell who it was, in my opinion.
This is what bothers me. When Terry Crews came out with his whole Me Too thing, I was kind of just like, oh, I know who Terry Crews is. I think he's pretty cool. Followed him on Instagram. I'm a fan. Whatever, right? He comes out with the whole like Me Too thing. All right, yeah, that's messed up. I'm glad this dude's coming out. I thought the same thing. Okay, who was this dude? Like tell the full story, man. Like let's get this ball rolling, Then I believe it was Gabrielle Union who was talking about issues with racism in Hollywood, right?
And she was on AGT with him.
Right. And Terry Crews basically came out and was like, nah, there's no racism in Hollywood. And instantly, I ain't even in Hollywood. And I'm like, whoa, how could you say that? I can see by watching movies, there's a lot of racism in Hollywood. Her saying that is not a surprise. It's more of a, hey, I've experienced this, right? And then he's against it. So I'm like, that was kind of strike one. We on about strike 8 or 9 now with Terry Crews, but that was like the first strike with me where all these people stood by Terry Crews in his Me Too moment. And then you have a black woman talking about racism. I mean, was his sexual experience that he's talking about where he was sexually harassed or whatever, could that not have even also been him being this big, strong black man, having that image.
Right.
You know what I mean? And someone doing this to him and not the other 50 or 100 people at this party.
Did some guy want him to flex those muscles? Did that little,
right. You know what I mean? Do a little peck pop. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's a lot of stuff that's suspect about Terry Crews. But here's the problem. It's kind of just like Kanye. Like, you might have a legitimate gripe about something, but then when you start just going off the rails and being super adamant about this one thing that's kind of off topic for your brand and the things you've been talking about, it's hard to pay attention to you now.
Right.
Because, I mean, defund Pornhub, like, dude, do you not have a PR person who could come up with a better slogan or something to be against porn? Like, because I get it. There are people who struggle with porn addictions and things like that, right?
But that's
and it
back
could
to
be
mental
a serious
health
thing,
and other
right?
things, right?
Right.
But that's not the porn industry's fault. There's actually a mental disease that has to go with people who watch too much porn, because then they can't have sex in real relationships.
Right.
Because real relationship sex isn't porn sex. Like,
right, I got you.
Right.
You know, but you can. There's an argument that can go either way, right? Is it cocaine's fault, or is it you have an addiction problem in general's fault?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it can go back and forth. And look, I'm not an expert in this topic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a strong believer in, look, you're responsible for two things: your attitude and your actions. Those are the only two things you can control, right? This is a little bit of both. How do you view this thing, and what are you doing about it? I get it. You want to eliminate porn in a sense. But with all of your money and all of your resources, you've got to think of a better way to do this other than just defund Pornhub. Like,
start a charity organization to help those who are sex trafficked.
How about that? You know what I mean?
There are things that you can do.
Exactly.
Donate money to some of these organizations that are bringing these girls back. Help these girls with their mental health after that. Help them with their education after that. There's a lot of other things you can do other than. And since we were talking about Terry Crews and not mentioning this guy's name, I sent this story to you earlier in the week, but it wasn't added to our topics tonight. You watched Entourage?
I've never watched the whole show. I've seen
some episodes,
pieces.
and I saw the movie.
Yeah.
I saw the movie like on HBO or something. So Kevin Connolly, who was on Entourage, this story bothers me. And if ladies listening, call in and give me your opinion on this. So he directed a movie called Gardener of Eden. And one of the assistant costume designers on that said that during the wrap party, and this was in 2005, so 15 years ago, that Connolly sexually assaulted her and raped her. And she's just coming out about this now. Ladies, I seriously have this is my question. So she told her boss that night. Her boss wouldn't confront Connolly, like at the party about it.
Mm-hmm.
She told all her girlfriends. But at no point did she ever call the police and make a statement or anything else. And we're 15 years later. Now she wants to accuse him of all. I don't. If you could tell everybody that you know, people who were there that night, went and confronted him, and you can't call the police at that point. I don't understand this story here. Like, I don't, and I understand and I'm not trying to victim shame here at all. I understand that there's something. It's the rape embarrassment thing and women not coming forward, and I feel like because they believe that police officers and departments don't take them seriously, and it's really hard to prove rape.
Right.
But you have people who can corroborate at least the aftermath of this story.
Right. On
that night, at that moment.
Yeah.
Why are you waiting 15 years?
This is one of those things where it's like, how do you, especially as a man, how do you get into the mindset of a woman who's just had this traumatic event happen, right?
Right, I can't. But
so it would make, as a man outside looking in, it would make more sense if she told nobody.
Right.
And then 15 years later, she has the courage or whatever it was that was lacking that night to call the police and say, this happened to me, right? I don't understand. It's very confusing to me why you would tell umpteen people, but not the police.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because telling all those people that I feel like whatever it was that was stopping you from calling the police, how did that not stop you from telling other people this happened?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it didn't seem like she just confided in like her best friend at the party. Like, she told
her boss
at
the
yeah,
party,
other
and her
people.
boss apparently, like, there are other people who are saying they know about the conference. They they saw Kevin Connolly and her boss, whose name is, I hate these little pop-up things. Like, they saw them arguing, like her boss, Connolly. Do we have the ladies? There are people who saw the argument between her boss and Connolly at the party.
Right.
Right. And a lot of them overheard some of the conversation. They didn't hear all of it. And some of them were too far away, but they saw the confrontation.
Right.
So there are other people that are like, something happened here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why 15? I don't understand why 15 years later.
I could even see like a week later. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even some months, even
right.
like a year or two. But after 15 years, because like, look, you can't.
And this happened in New York, by the way. So I don't know what the statute of limitations is on rape in New York.
So people experience trauma, right?
Right.
And sometimes you kind of expect to get over it, or you kind of expect people, like, after a certain amount of time passes, you'll be free of it. And that's not always true. Some people, for whatever reason, they live with certain traumatic experiences their entire life. They just never get over it, right? And so, on one hand, I'm trying to, because I'm siding with her. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out what happened that day that she didn't do anything, because I know why she did it now, because she's still living with it. There still hasn't been closure on it, right?
Right.
So I get why now you say, you know what, I have to do that step I didn't take back then, which is call the police or whatever. But man, if you wish you could be there.
So Amy Westcott was her boss.
Okay.
But here's something else. So after this, Amy and Kevin continued to work for 2 more years on Entourage. And a few years later, Amy recommended her assistant to go work with Kevin on another job. If you're this Amy lady and you've confronted Kevin about this, and now let's give his side of the story. Okay. He denies that this was, like, he doesn't deny having sex with this woman.
Okay.
He denies that this was a sexual assault.
Okay.
Does he say that he handled it poorly? Because according to her, after he sexually assaulted her, he threw a towel or something at her and told her to clean herself up.
Okay.
And he was very demeaning and whatever.
Yeah.
He's not denying that. Like, he's not saying that he couldn't have handled it better.
Yeah.
He's saying this wasn't sexual assault. He was like, this, essentially, he's like, yeah, I did her. And maybe I wasn't cool afterwards, but whatever. Like, this was not rape.
And so, and that's what I'm thinking. Maybe everybody else was kind of on the fence about what happened. Maybe it was maybe this is more of, and not to say that this is any less, worse, but maybe it wasn't a violent rape, but more of like a date rape situation where somewhere during the sex, she asked him to stop and he didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or somewhere in it, like, maybe it was started because he was maybe imposing his will on, like, you know what, this will get you further in your career, or, you know what I mean? Something along those lines. Right. So that's what kind of is like why nobody else did anything either. You know what I mean? Because, like, I can't front about this. Like, if somebody tells me, like, hey, this person raped me or this person sexually assaulted me, my first thought is, did you call the police? And if I'm there with them, like, I'm calling the police. And when the police come, you can tell them, hey, he didn't really rape me or whatever. And I'll tell them, well, that's what she told me. Sorry, I wasted your time, officer. But it's either that or I got to beat down a rapist. It's one or the other. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't, like, at this point, like, I never want to discredit somebody for, being a victim of a crime. And like you said, not trying to victim shame, but at the same time, like, all of her other friends seem to be cool with this guy after this happened.
Right. And, like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what kind of
I feel like if these are your friends and you've just been raped, they should encourage you to call the police, right?
Right.
They would go down to the police department with you and help you file the report, for moral support, you know. And so her story is that Cox said she was a bit tipsy at the point, claimed that Connolly led her down a hall to what I guess was the VIP lounge area, she says. As soon as we were alone in the area, he started to kiss me, she claimed. I didn't know how to respond, but before I could even think about what to do, he pulled me into one of these little side booths, pulled down my pants, turned me around, and within no time was inside me. I was just in shock.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to say these days. Like you remember the whole Aziz Ansari? I can never say his name right.
Yeah.
You remember his whole like Me Too thing where the girl was like, "Oh yeah, you know, he raped me and this and that," and then everybody was trying to cancel him, and then you actually read her story, and basically what happened was they met, they hooked up, they went to whatever place, they had sex, and she didn't like it. She did not enjoy the sex. And then when it was over, she tried to say that he raped her. And literally reading her story, you find out that's not rape. That's, I didn't enjoy the sex. That's not,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not, that's not date rape. Like you eat by her own admission, like she agreed to having sex. She wanted to have sex, but when they were having sex, it just wasn't what she thought it would be. And then afterwards, you know, they said their goodbyes, whatever, and she left. Like there was no sign of rape in her story.
He tossed a pillow at her and told her to clean herself up.
I mean, that's like, probably a little disrespectful.
And that's what he's saying. Like his side is that, yeah, I was probably a little, you know, doggish and whatever, but I didn't rape her.
It's so hard to talk about these because you really don't know what exactly happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then especially legally and with, you know, the moral aspect of it and being in the heat of the moment of things happening, how drunk were they? How sober were they? Did she actually say no at any point? You know what I'm saying?
According to her,
like,
she never did say no. She said this all happened so fast.
Right.
That
so,
which is.
But does she have to say yes?
What'd you say? What's that?
I'm just saying, does it ever happen that fast?
I mean,
like,
I think right.
Like, away or
like, yeah, she couldn't roll over. Like, I mean,
and the scary thing too, what if she was like, she didn't get what she thought she was going to get out of it, and then afterwards, when he did that, now she feels embarrassed because that happened.
Right.
So
now she's disrespected.
Now I don't like
you
that we had sex because you did that.
You just dogged me out, so that's what. So I'm gonna tell my friend like you, you know,
this story is like really like
man, bro.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Let's go. Here we go.
Man,
Nick Cannon. And I've been saving this for later in the show because anybody who's ever watched the show knows I can't stand Nick Cannon. I'm not gonna talk about the comments. You can talk about the comments with me. My problem with Nick Cannon is this, right? And it's always been my problem with Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon pretends to be a tough guy and then isn't a tough guy. He is that guy that's in the bar that's talking a lot of shit. I'll kick your ass. I'll beat you down. Well, let's step outside.
Yeah.
Well, my girl won't let me go outside with you and you're lucky my girl's holding me in here. That's Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
Right? He said some things about the Jewish community. Viacom immediately fired him. He came out posting Viacom, calling them all kinds of names. You're not going to censor me and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Fox comes out and says, if you don't apologize, we're taking you off The Masked Singer. Hell, we might replace you with Terry Crews. Like I don't know if they said that, but
Ryan Seacrest, baby.
But right. Like you ain't gonna be on. Like, so what does he do? He apologizes.
Right.
To me, this is the guy that calls you a racial slur and then says, "Oh, but that's not what I meant."
I'm not a racist.
Right. You can't be both, Nick. Can't like. And people were like, it's funny because like when it first happened, he made the comments the first day. People were comparing him to Dave Chappelle. Comedy Central that Dave Chappelle walked away from is also owned by Viacom, the company that Nick Cannon went after, right? They're owned by the same company. Dave Chappelle didn't get on there thumping his chest. He just said, I'm not signing for $50 million. Bye.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. Right? And then 10 years later, he gets a deal at Netflix for $75 million. So it worked out for him. But this is my problem. And then all of a sudden, the Dr. Sebi documentary, he released the trailer for that.
Oh.
Did we lose the screen? Okay.
So
But if you watch the trailer, there's a whole lot of Nick Cannon in that trailer. I've always said this. He has always been about, I just want to be out there. I want people to pay attention to me.
Well, first, I'm not a huge Nick Cannon fan. I don't think he's really funny. Drumline was all right. I've never heard a Nick Cannon song and was like, oh man, that's fire. Like, I mean, but as a black man to another black man, I respect his hustle. I respect his business savvy. At the end of the day, he's always doing something. I mean, as corny as he is, a ton of people are watching The Masked Singer. Wildin' Out's been going on for a while. I mean, it is what it is. He has a success, and I applaud him in that. Now, apparently, I spoke too soon on this whole matter because I guess the part of the podcast that I saw, Nick Cannon was just dropping facts about some of the things that people who happen to be Jewish do or have done. And I was like, well, dude, where's the lie? I agree, you know? Then people was hitting me up like, bro, you can't side with Nick Cannon. He said this, and that. And I'm like, man, I must have watched a different podcast than y'all. So then I found the link and found the whole thing and was like, yeah, he said some stuff that obviously people who know me know I don't agree with. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never calling anybody any kind of like slurs. I'm never saying that like, you know, look, I'm black and I'm proud. I love it. I support black culture and all of that. But I'm never going to be like, oh, black people are the dominant race and we are of God's people and everybody else is just some abhorrent. Come on, man. Y'all know ain't nobody agreeing with that mess, right? There are some people who do, but y'all know it ain't me, right? Right. So I'm at this point where I have to agree with everything you just said. Like Nick Cannon is constantly thumping his chest until he gets threatened. Right. And I'm kind of at the point of like, look, Nick, when are you going to do what we want you to do and what you claim to be standing up for, which is start your own network? When are you going to actually put your money where your mouth is and create this black network that you want? Because right now, the whole reason he got fired is because the people who he were making comments about just so happened to be his boss, right? So look, whether I agree with what he said or not, which I just said, like, there was some facts in there and there was some slurs and stuff, which I obviously don't agree with that. The facts doesn't matter if I agree with them. It was facts, right? That because he quoted some history, right? So look, you can't like, okay, I can't come to this network and then get on Facebook and talk bad about white people, knowing that Quan is the one who runs the network and we're friends on Facebook. I can't expect to come in here and do a show and Quan's like,
I'd still let you do the show.
Well,
people have freedom of speech. I don't.
That's fair.
But, all right, that's fair.
If you go talk junk about me, like people, so I have had some people, and it's like I'm still getting paid.
Right. You're okay. Right.
But there are people. If you go to your job at the casino, and you say these type of things about your boss,
of course, right?
You know what I mean? You're not gonna have a job tomorrow. Right?
Exactly. It's over, right? And you have to think about those things. So, I mean, look, facts or not, at the end of the day, we need Nick Cannon to stand on Nick Cannon. Like I've never been sold on the whole Dr. Sebi thing because I just believe this. Like if he's cured all these people of AIDS, where are they? Because I've heard about them, but I've not seen them. Right. I've not seen proof of anything that Dr. Sebi was supposed to do. I've only seen Dr. Sebi talk in a handful of YouTube videos, which anybody can talk in some YouTube videos, right?
I've done so much research. When Nipsey Hussle died and Nick Cannon said he was taking over this, I Googled for days and hours, and I couldn't find anything that was definitive that this actually happened.
You can't find proof. You can't find patients' names.
You can't even find patients who are saying he cured me.
Right. Yeah.
Like you don't like. There's always that one guy that will be like, "Yeah, I went to Dr. Sebi," you know, and he cured me.
No, it's just Dr. Sebi saying that he did this stuff. Right.
Ask people if they've been cured of cancer by marijuana, and 1,000 people will line up and be like, yeah, marijuana saved my life. Right. But nobody's standing in line going, yeah, I'm the guy that Dr. Sebi say. Like, I don't see any of that.
I want to see this documentary. And my thing about some of these things is that if these things are so great and so powerful, it's not about, well, why isn't everybody doing it? It's almost one of those things like, you don't think that there's somebody who would have come along, stole that idea and started selling it by now? Like Dr. Sebi wasn't a 5-year phenomenon. This dude's been around for 20, 30 years making these same claims. You don't think some
pharmaceutical company,
exactly.
If Dr. Sebi had a cure, some pharmaceutical company would have dropped $500 million in his lap and be like, let me have this, and we're going to cure the world, and we're going to charge people like Gilead does, $1 billion to be cured.
The only person I know that had HIV or AIDS and then no longer has it or is no longer active is Magic Johnson.
Yep.
I've not heard of another name. If you know one, please email it to me. Drop it in the comments.
There's a lot now.
Give me some people.
Most of the medicine they have.
Right. They have Biktarvy and all these other.
Yeah, and you can, the medicine now, it's pretty much, it can go undetectable.
Right. It doesn't
still
cure
in the
it.
system,
right. It
but
doesn't
it's
cure
undetectable.
it. It makes
and almost impossible to pass.
To pass. Right. We've talked about drugs like Descovy and I can't think of the non-generic version of that.
Yeah, they like block you from getting it and stuff. Right. Yeah, and keep you from that. So
I watch a lot of stuff on the Pluto app, and every other commercial on there is Biktarvy. If you take Biktarvy, we can make HIV undetectable for you, and when it becomes you still have it, but like you said, it's undetectable.
Yeah, almost impossible to give it to somebody and all of that.
I want to talk about one quick thing about racial discrimination, just because I find this absolutely hilarious. First, I'm going to give Sean, he was here last week with us, props. He said the problem with cancel culture is if you speak the truth and it's not what someone agrees with, then it's racist or wrong and you have to cancel you. I agree with that 100%. Nobody wants to hear the truth. Everybody just wants to hear what they want to hear.
Right.
So there's in Washington, the state, not D.C., lady walks into Lowe's. She's buying some stuff from Lowe's. There's a black employee over there. Black employee is wearing a T-shirt. T-shirt says, I don't even understand. It says Black Panther, Wakanda forever. She goes livid. Ultimate Karen goes out, leaves the store, and decides to come back and go to the manager and complain that he is wearing a racist shirt and he should not be allowed to wear that racist shirt at work. So Lowe's sends him home, has him change his shirt. He comes back to work. The lady comes back the next day to make sure that he was disciplined to her satisfaction for wearing that racist shirt. Lowe's corporate spoke out and said that he should not have been sent home to change his shirt. They apologized to him. This should not have happened. I don't even Is nothing safe? These are movies. It's a movie quote. I was trying to think of a quote unquote white movie that has a line that's so that I could claim is racist because it's so out of context. And I just can't think of one right now, right? Like where somebody says something that's not racist, but I could find a way to make it racist.
You know what's so funny is this exact same thing happened to me. I do not wear a lot of shirts other than my brand that actually have images on them, right? Either I'm wearing my brand or a plain t-shirt. I'm known in the streets for this, right? One of my kids, might have been my wife, got me a Black Panther shirt, right? The movie Black Panther or the comic book. It has T'Challa on it and it says Black Panther and he's doing some comic book pose, right? I forget what was going on at church, but it wasn't a Sunday, it was something, and I go there and person who remained nameless walks up to me and he's like, when he gets to me, his facial expression is kind of weird, and then from how he normally is, and then he goes, "Oh, my bad." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "I thought you were wearing a Black Panther shirt, like the gang Black Panthers, and I didn't realize that was the movie Black Panther until I got up to you. So I was going to talk to you about it, but never mind."
There's a Black Panther gang?
Okay, so this person was obviously white, and I was in so much shock to hear this. And he just said this really quick and was like, "My bad," and walked off. I stood there for literally 5 minutes and I'm debating, do I need to get this dude a whole history lesson on what the actual Black Panthers were and what they did and why they were around? And you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I was just like, man, he's just ignorant. And I don't mean it as an insult. He literally just has no idea. And he read somewhere that the Black Panthers were a gang. And he thought I was legit, just wearing a black, because in my mind, even if I did have on a Black Panther shirt, you know what I'm saying? Right. The organization Black Panthers, if that was the shirt I had on, trust me, I would have dropped some knowledge on this dude. But I'm sitting here just you know what? Some battles, I just, I can't fight all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't fight everybody, you know? So I let it go. But that's what's really funny about this is that's how uneducated people are. That they
but she felt she was so right that she decided to come back the next day to make sure he was disciplined. I want to know how she feels when she reads this article and people are like, in the comments, and people are like, somebody needs to beat this woman up. Like, she wins the Karen crown of the year, right? Like, and we're only in July, and like, there's not
like, how about get educated? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just educate yourself first, or ask a question before you start assaulting people over comic book shirts.
Hey, it's been Negro Please. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's all the Negro Please. I'm Dallas Scott, Hollywood Huff, Quan the producer. We'll see you next Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for watching.